Very easy to do. You see how lovely that is? And next to it, I have a glass of tomato juice that I made. Made it in the food processor. Nothing to it. These things are so easy to do and so very versatile. I love them. All right, now I have a strange one for you. My tomatoes are cooking for the soup, but in this pot, I have simply boiling water, and I want to blanch. Do you know what? Here we go. I want to blanch some cherry tomatoes. Let's grab a few of these little tiny tins here. I want to blanch a few cherry tomatoes, and I'll show you how it's very easy to peel them if you let them simmer for just a second. And then we're going to do something absolutely crazy, and I'll show you what it is. But we're going to go around and around today until we can get all these things in the oven, so I'm going to continue with another dish. I want to show you how to make a stuffed tomato, Lebanese style. I'm cutting down into the center of the tomato, these nice big beefsteak tomatoes, you see, and we'll simply core that out with a large spoon. All right, there it is. See what I've done? You can take out a little more of the core if you like. I'll make a couple of these here for you. There. Lebanese tomato. Why am I calling it Lebanese? Well, because the Lebanese are wont to stuff all kinds of marvelous vegetables with a filling of rice and meat and some basic seasonings, and I want to show you how that's done right now while my cherry tomatoes are being blanched. All right, let's prepare the filling. You can do a whole bunch of these, and you can do 6 or 8 of these for dinner, and each person can have their own. It's marvelous. I want to get a bowl for a mixture of meat. I have some hamburger here. It's already been prepared. A little bit of, you can use your own judgment in terms of amounts. A little bit of fresh ground hamburger. Some sauteed yellow onion. There we are. And a little bit of rice. And the rice has already been cooked. We'll just blend it right in here. There we go. All right. Now, the secret to this dish is the seasoning. And the seasoning, in this case, a typical Middle Eastern seasoning, and very, very Lebanese indeed, is allspice and cinnamon. Now, if you've not tried that combination, you've missed out on a very delicious thing. I was raised on that flavor from a dear friend by the name of Selma Abdo. Grandma Abdo was actually my cousin's grandmother. You know, one of those situations. And I just loved the old girl. Let's put some pepper in there, too. There we are. Hamburger. Got that? Hamburger, sauteed yellow onions, a bit of cooked rice, and some salt and pepper. And then our seasoning is cinnamon and allspice. We're going to mix this up very carefully and quickly and stuff the tomatoes with this. It's also good in green peppers and anything you like. Anything you like. Okay. Let's just try one, huh? Easy to do. There we are. Then we're going to bake these in about a 375-degree oven until they're tender. See how those are done? Very easy to do, indeed. Whoops! Look at that. He fell right over. You're going to have to cut the bottom off. Just to kind of level him, you know what I mean? So that he doesn't... Let's see what this one's going to do. Well, I'll show you how to do. Show you how to do this. Oh, you never know. Oh, look, I've got a lopsided tomato in my hands. So we'll just cut a tiny bit off the bottom until the little rascal sits. There he is. Now he'll sit up straight. Now I'll bake these, as I said, at about 350 for, oh, I don't know, what'll it take? 15 to 25 minutes. But don't overdo them. Where will I put them? Let's try this spot right here. There we are. Don't overdo them. You don't want soggy tomatoes. All right? Aren't those gorgeous? Let's try another. My tomatoes are all ready to come from the water. I probably blanched them too long. But I want to... It just takes a minute to do this. I've let mine sit in here too long because I got carried away with my Lebanese tomatoes. Cherry tomatoes from the water, you see? Put them in cold water right away to stop the cooking process. And I'll show you how easy they are to peel. And you're wondering, who's maniac enough to stand around and peel cherry tomatoes? Well, I am, because the dish... Look at this, you see? See how beautifully they come out? Pull off the little tip here, and you've got him. Oops, that one's... These are overdone. I'd let them go too long. Let me show you some that I have in the refrigerator. What you want to do is chill these, and we're going to serve them with vodka as an appetizer, with vodka and a beautiful batch of kosher salt. It's a very grainy, almost flaky salt. Didn't I show you how to peel that tomato beautifully? Don't cook yours so long, and the peel will come right off. Now let me get the vodka and the cherry tomatoes out of the freezer here, out of the refrigerator. Cherry tomatoes are cold in the refrigerator. The vodka, of course, is frozen. My guests are coming in any minute, so I'm ready to go. Oh, is that cold? Woo-hoo-hoo. There we are. Look at this. Isn't this a crazy thing to be doing? It's just lovely. Soak these in ice-cold vodka. There we are. And they're served with a bit of kosher salt. And the kosher salt, here it is, a box full here. A little bowl for the salt. See, this is very flaky. It's a heavy, flat crystal. You don't want to eat too much of this. That much salt isn't good for it. But I'm dying to try these. You know who taught me these? A woman in Tacoma, Washington, whose husband was Harry Truman's doctor during the White House days. She fed me this dish at a cocktail party one night. Are you ready? I'm ready. Here we go. You know what you have here? It's a Bloody Mary on a stick. It's terrific. Just delicious. I'm going to put the salt in the center so you'll remember how to serve these. And we'll find a spot for cherry tomatoes peeled by blanching first and then soaked in a batch of vodka and served ice cold with a tiny bit of kosher salt. My tomatoes are all ready now to go into the soup stock. You see, they've simmered long enough, so I'm going to shut those off and I'll finish that soup later on. Let's go on to another one now. You have not yet tried the dried tomato, and I want to show you what happens with this dried tomato. It's very, very expensive, but this is a terribly elegant thing. I'm going to prepare a little hors d'oeuvre here for you that is simply gorgeous. We're going to put a bit of cream cheese on a cracker. Talk about complicated now. A little bit of cream cheese goes in the cracker. And then on the top of the cream cheese, we place a leaf of fresh basil, basilico. You see? Here's a fresh basil leaf right here. There we are. And then next we put on top of that a cherry tomato. Now, that's about $1.50 hors d'oeuvre. What's the Frugal Gourmet doing? Well, once in a while you have to taste something really outlandish. And I'm sorry you can't taste this. This recipe came to me from Harvey Steinman in San Francisco. He writes for the San Francisco Examiner. He's the food editor. He's very good. That is so rich. The tomato flavor is so highly concentrated that it's almost embarrassing. Boy, is that good. Is that good. Let me get rid of another platter here so we'll have a spot to put it, huh? There you are. Now, what are we going to cook next? Well, I'll tell you what we could do. We could prepare some green tomatoes by frying them. Have you ever done that? These little tomatillos are just beautiful when they're fried. Let me cut you one in half and you'll see what I mean. But you mustn't overcook these because they're very pithy. And if you overdo them, they're not going to be as tasty. So simply fry these beautiful little tomatillos. You see? Fry them face down in the pan, thusly, you see? And then when they're barely brown, turn them over and cook them again. Just for a short time. And that way they'll be tender and nice. And you'll have a dish that you simply won't believe. As a nice relish. Whoops, I want to start upside down, right? As a nice relish on the side. There we are. We'll put these on to fry. They're a lovely thing. Tomatillos. A beautiful thing from Mexico. Finally, I want to show you how to peel a tomato. It's very, very simple if you're into this sort of thing. And I've never really felt that the tomato has to be peeled in any case. But James Beard showed me this. And it really does work. It's a snap. What he does, of course, if you have to have a gas stove. Now, if you don't have a gas stove, then you have to peel your tomatoes by blanching them. You know, my clever method I used just a minute ago and all the tomatoes fell apart because I cooked them too long. Don't do that. But this method will work. Let me find a fork here. Here we go. Pick out a good firm tomato. Put the fork in him, you see? Put the fork in him, and over the gas he goes. Put him right over the burner, and simply stand here and talk to him until the skin begins to blister and it'll come right off. Come right off. It's an easy thing to do, and it's really kind of fun. An enjoyable way to get rid of the skin. People used to skin tomatoes all the time. In our time and in our table, I just don't even bother. I just don't even bother. How do we know about the tomato's history? The first fellow to ever write about the tomato was an Italian herbalist. An herbalist. He was an authority on herbs. And in 1554, I can't remember his name, I'm sorry, he decided that the tomato was a deadly poison and that we weren't to eat it. it would cause all sorts of crazy things. He said it was a narcotic. Isn't that interesting? So he didn't think they should eat them, though he said in certain portions of our country, meaning Italy, of course, they do eat them with olive oil and salt. Even then, you see, a classic Italian salad. And as I told you, it was brought to the New World by the colonists. And it was called a love apple, or sometimes a golden apple. You can understand why it was called a golden apple, but the love apple is a funny story. The Moors evidently brought some of these tomatoes to an Italian nobleman, and when he had someone come in one night for dinner, the fellow commented on this tomato, calling it an apple. A pome, you see? Pomi in Italian, I think it is. And he said, what are these? And the guy said, well, they're an apple from the Moors. And he called it a pom de mori. So the guy said, oh, you mean a love apple? And supposedly that's how the name came about. If you're a language authority, you'll know that that's probably nonsense. But watch this now. You see, I've barely blistered the skin. You see what's happened to this? And we'll just take it right off. There you are. If you want to bother to stand around and peel a tomato, why, this is the simplest method. But otherwise, if you don't want to take the time to serve a peeled tomato, why, you can just eat them with the peel on. I don't mind that at all. I should spend some more time on the burner with this one, I think. But you get the idea. See, it comes right off. There we are. It's just a great day for peeling tomatoes, isn't it? I'm not doing very well. There he goes. See? All right, one peeled tomato. Let's put that out so you'll remember how that's done, too. We've got a marvelous mess here today, a good mess, the kind of mess that I appreciate. Because this is an American fruit. That is to say, coming first of all from South America, and then, as I've told you, back to Europe, and finally back to our country. Popular during the colonial times, but really not accepted totally until the turn of the century. And in our time, there's no excuse for not enjoying a good tomato. Look at the things we can do. Today we've prepared a beautiful sun-dried tomato from Italy. These are great for sauces and all, but they're very, very, very expensive. So go back to the supermarket variety. Then we prepared an Italian tomato or a French tomato, depending which style you want for the top, you see. Breadcrumbs and olive oil and a little garlic. Brown them off and then bake them again later to tenderize them. They're very delicious. We have a tomato soup that we made by hand, from homemade tomato. Nothing to it. It's very, very simple. We stuffed some tomatoes Lebanese style. Easy to do, and I think a very delicious dish. I can't even reach these, and it breaks my heart, but I have the tiny cherry tomatoes sitting there soaking in beautiful vodka. They're ice cold. And then finally we have a sauteed tomato mix of a little bit of celery and onions, a tiny shot of garlic, and of course the tomatoes themselves. I have a glass of fresh tomato juice. I have a quiche with tomatoes on top. You have 1,000 other things you can think of. Oh, and some fried green tomatoes, remember? You have 1,000 other things you can think of. But remember, in our time, it's shocking to think what we would be without the tomato. Guess what would have to go? Pizza? Ketchup? Tomato soup? Half the supermarket would be gone. And you and I would be stuck without the classic American vegetable, the gracious tomato. I'm glad we could be together today. Until I see you again, this is the Frugal Gourmet. Eat well. I bid you peace. Bye-bye.